So about 5 years ago, my husband and I moved to St. John's. And while we were living there, we were living in one of those row homes, the yellow row homes that you would find in St. John's or The Rock. And one morning there, I was carefully but quickly running down the stairs because I was running late for work. And as I got to the back porch, I put on my big black boots, my green long coat, my toque, my backpack, and I paused. Was I forgetting something else? Convinced myself I didn't need anything else and head out to the bus stop. Once I went on the bus, I sat in my usual spot behind the bus driver. And once I sat there, I finally realized that it was snowing outside. And it was coming down peacefully and steady, but peacefully. And all I could think about was, thank God I don't have to drive in that. And I was so happy about just being able to ride on that bus. And when my bus came to my stop, I came out the bus in the front and I didn't want to bother with the back of the bus. And it was full of snow once the bus driver opened the door. It was slush and at least 2 feet of snow. I get off the bus, and as I am there, I noticed that the sidewalk I needed to walk on was at least covered in a foot of snow. And my path from the bus stop to the crosswalk that I would need to cross the street to cross another side street to get to the plaza for work was at least a foot of snow, unshoveled. All right, I'm not doing that. So instead, I was going to cross the 2-lane street. This 2-lane street, I looked left, I looked right, looked left again, because gotta be careful. And as I was stepping out to the curb, my foot went down further in the snow than I expected. And then as I was falling forward into the street, my other foot fell further into the snow than I expected. And now I'm further into the street, in the middle of the street. My backpack was falling behind me and pushing me forward, and I fell. And it knocked the wind out of me. But before we get into that, we need to go back. We need to go back about 30 years, give or take. I'm not going to give my real age. And I was about 2.5 when my parents, they had found out that I was hearing impaired. And with that, they bought me hearing aids. And as a 2.5-year-old, my best hobby was to go and hide them for my parents to go find. And so later on, as I was wearing the hearing aids until about 7 or 8, I convinced myself at one point that if I took my hearing aids out, I could hear better. I can train my ears to hear better. Obviously not medically backed, doesn't work, not recommended. And then when I was about a preteen, I got so excited because I was able to choose my hearing aid color. My mold and behind my ear was always beige. And who else wear beige hearing aids? Old people. And I didn't want to do that. I want to be young and hip. So out of the pink, out of the purple, out of the blue, the orange, or beige, I chose blue. I was so excited wearing these blue hearing aids. But after a while, I didn't want to be known as the girl with blue hearing aids. I wanted to be known that I had my own merits, that I can go and get high marks in public school and high school and get my driver's license. And I did all those. And I remember not really accepting my hearing loss until I was in my 20s. And that was okay. Because in my 20s, I graduated from university. I fell in love. I got married. I got married to Heath, and we bought a house. We got a dog. We traveled. I got a full-time job. And you know what comes with a full-time job? Benefits. So benefits with, getting your dentist appointment, routine optometrist appointment, and also vacation. Ooh, Heath and I were planning a road trip. This road trip was not just, an hour and a half. It was going to be from Ontario to California. And we were so excited about this road trip. We planned that he was going to drive in the late afternoons until the evenings, and I was going to drive in the mornings into the early afternoons, because I hated the headlights on our car because it was not bright enough for me. And he didn't like my driving at night, so win-win. So that trip was so fun. We drove from Ontario to Colorado, and in Colorado we saw those mountains that you would see on the Coors Light bottles. And then we went to Utah. If you want a boring drive, go to Utah. And then we went to San Francisco. Oh my gosh, we did the cable cars there, we did Alcatraz, we did the Golden Gate Bridge, we drove across the Golden Gate Bridge a couple times, we even did the hop-on, hop-off tour over the Golden Gate Bridge a couple times. We drove up the 101 and dipped our toes into the Pacific Ocean. And we also did the attraction where you could drive your car through a redwood tree. That was pretty cool. We had to put the mirrors in the car so it would fit in, but it's still pretty cool. So when we got back to Ontario, I had to follow up with a referral from the optometrist to an ophthalmologist. And I thought Heath was gonna come with me just to drive me after getting your eyes dilated, but no. I needed him there with me because I was told I shouldn't be driving. Oops. My central vision, I was told was going to be okay for many years to come, but my ability to perceive light will diminish. So seeing colors would be hard for me, and my depth perception. And also my peripheral vision would be narrowing over time, and that there was no cure, or there is no cure. I remember that car drive home, talking to Heath about different moments where things were just starting to click. Like the headlights on our car on our road trip. It wasn't that it wasn't bright enough, it was, I had night blindness. And also, when I would walk into buildings or walk into someone's home, after being outside, it would be like pitch dark. And it would take a few seconds for it to lighten up and then see shadows, and then I see everything okay again. That wasn't normal. And on that car drive, I had to apologize to my husband, and this is the rare occasions, that when we had an argument about my sports bra being orange and he thought it was pink, it was actually pink. For about 3 years after that, I was having a hard time accepting what was happening, and went for genetic testing. I went and got confirmed about my diagnosis, that my progression was gradually happening, but it was happening. And they warned me that, unfortunately, with the type of diagnosis I have, I won't know until something happens, an incident happens that my eyes are actually getting narrower or getting worse. My vision getting worse. And during that time, I surrendered my driver's license. And during this time, I was noticing I was running into door frames, missing the bottom steps of the staircase, and I was running into toddlers. I am sorry for all my nieces and nephews out there. And I decided that I needed to be independent still. I decided that in order to do that, I needed to get trained on the white cane. So I followed up in referral, did the training for that, and they gave me a white cane on how to navigate the stairs and the curbs. But I sort of felt like a fraud. I felt like I wasn't blind enough for this. But obviously I was, because why would they just give a white cane to anybody? So I did the white cane, and then I decided I didn't want to use the white cane. I want to make it blue. So I ordered a blue cane. And I thought this would entice me to use it more. Nope. Did not use it more. It stood in the corner of our house collecting dust. And I was using the cane as a suggestion. And I was not listening to Heath when he told me that he was worried that I was going to fall and hurt myself. And I wasn't listening to my mom when she told me that people are more likely to help you, Julie, if you have a cane with you and you fall, versus not having a cane and you fall and they think you're drunk. And it was a hard time trying to tell people how I was going through everything when I wasn't really understanding it myself. And one moment I realized I was taking my frustrations out on Heath, and he is a kind and patient man. He didn't deserve that. So I decided to include him in how I was feeling. And one of the things that we found out was, for good eye health, it is good to reduce stress in your life. How else do you reduce stress in your life but by living life? So Heath and I packed up our vehicle and we drove from Ontario to St. John's, Newfoundland, and for him to go to school and for me to figure out what being independent looked like. Don't worry, I didn't help him drive on that one. So what did I learn in St. John's? I learned that when you land on a 2-lane street, you fart on impact. And that is why I use my cane every damn day.